Quick announcement, this is being recorded. I know people are probably going to ask as they come in. We are recording this. It's going to be up on the Perform Better YouTube page, so just stay tuned for that. It does take us a little bit of time to edit it out, but we'll get it up there for you guys. And then if anyone has any questions for Bobby or Rocky as we go through this, you'll see at the bottom of your screen, there's a little Q&A box. You guys can ask questions there. Put them in, they'll read them at the end. They'll be able to get through your questions if you have any. So feel free to put those in there. And I think that's all my announcements for now. If anyone's in the Providence area or on the East Coast, we do have one summit left, the Providence Summit. Definitely reach out if you guys would like to attend. We are doing a team deal, and we can hook you guys up. So not that I'm biased or anything, but I think Providence is a great one, my favorite one to do. So definitely check it out if you would like. It is August 20th, 21st, and 22nd, so still time to register. All right, so I will let you guys take it from here. We have Rocky Snyder and Bobby Aldridge doing our webinar today. Rocky is a certified trainer for over 33 years. He was the 2023 NSCA Personal Trainer of the Year. He is the host of the Zealous podcast. And fun fact about Rocky, he's a huge surfer, which Rocky, I don't know if you went surfing yet today, but I'm sure you'll do it. Then we have Bobby Aldridge. Bobby is the founder and CEO of BAM Metrics. He's a performance coach for everyone from the PGA, LPGA, Major League Baseball, NFL, NHL, you name it, Bobby's probably worked with them. He has over 30 years experience. He's a published author, speaker, and sports kinesiologist, and we are very happy to have them both today, Rocky Snyder and Bobby Aldridge.
Thank you, Aaron. Man, yeah, we've got waves out on the West Coast, and so we're going to keep to this time where we've got 1 hour because that means that I get to go out and enjoy some of that saltwater therapy soon enough. Bob, how you doing today?
Good. All right.
Good.
Ready to go.
Okay. How about this? I'm just going to share the screen right now, and we're going to get a little slideshow going on here, and you should be able to switch between the slideshow and another view. So there'll be times where Bob is most likely going to be doing a few movements, and you can kind of expand onto his frame if you want to. But essentially, we're talking about metrics and mobility. Mobility has been with us for a long time, right? You hear it at the Perform Better Summits over and over. Then whether it's proximal stability creates distal mobility and so on, or it's just the importance of mobilizing a joint for reducing any restrictions of movement and trying to create as much freedom. But a lot of us do these mobility drills and we do them over and over expecting different results. So today we're going to talk about, well, how do we measure the performance of somebody in regards to mobility? How do we see that they're improving on this rather than just simply assuming that the best outcome is going to occur without actually assessing it? So if we're not assessing, we're guessing, right? Bob, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I agree. It's like the athletes that you're working with and the clients, if they don't have an awareness to where they are in space, they can't improve their mobility. It's like the key to movement is mobility. And the better they move, the better they feel. The better they feel, the better they're going to perform. So as we'll show you today, you're going to see some of these movements that we do that we actually measure, and it'll simplify it for your clients.
Right on. So where we're going to go is I feel old when I do movie quotes of the 80s, but Stripes, you remember Uncle Hulka, the big toe? We're going to be doing, we're going to be looking at the importance of mobilizing the big toe, which by now it's kind of crept into a little bit more of mainstream strength conditioning. I think there's a lot of people out there that understand the importance of that part of your body that touches the ground on a regular basis, and the fact that the foot has 26 bones and 33 joints, and one of the biggest joints in there being the big toe has a direct impact on athletic performance and everyday life. If your big toe moves too much or too little, then there's going to be some carryover into how your body moves. So we're going to try and mobilize it to get to the sweet spot, which we'll explain in just a moment. But we also want to look at ways of understanding hip mobility. And there's going to be a tremendous amount of ways that we can mobilize joints. So please don't walk away thinking that these are the only ways that Bob and Rock do these things. No, we're just giving you a sampling to try to better understand the concepts behind why we want to do mobilization drills and what the byproduct of that will be. And then we also have the T-spine. I think of it as the queen on the chessboard. It has so many different directions that it can move. The lumbars below do not like rotation. Structurally, they're not set up for more than maybe 1 or 2 degrees of rotating left and right. So when you add up all 5 lumbars, we've got maybe 5 or 6 degrees of rotation down below. But so where do we get the majority of our rotation? It's from the thoracic. But it's also meant to flex and extend and side bend left and right. So again, just like the queen on the chessboard, most people, however, have restriction in their T-spine, primarily because of where the environment we're in right now, seated. We're locking out our hips, we're locking out our ankles, we're locking out our T-spine, 3 of the big buckets of movement. And then how do we take this information and apply it to the next session with your client or your team or your athletes or your patients, whomever you're working with? How do you apply this information? How do you apply the concepts? So that's where we're going right now. Bob, you want to add?
Yeah, the big toe is like really a big important thing that over the last few years I've been playing with and noticing that when you work from the big toe up through that kinetic chain, all the way through the glute to the shoulder, it's been absolutely improving performance across the way. It's things that I've been doing that I was like, why is this happening? But that connection from the toe up, if you start to practice and play with some of these movements and start to measure like actually what you're getting out of it, you're going to see a huge improvement in how your athletes are moving and your clients. It's the awareness of that. And when you do make them aware, all of a sudden their knee pain will go away, their hip pain will go away, things will change. I mean, Rocky, we're messing around with me and we're doing some of these movements. And literally the other day, I had 2 hip replacements in the last few years and knee surgery last year. I did the best 120-pound Turkish get-up the other day. And I'm telling you, it's because that big toe, I'm able to push out of that, drive through the glute, and get up out of it effortlessly on the hip that actually feels terrible. So we'll go more into detail on this stuff as we go.
That's good. Yeah. So we're going to do 3 basic movements. We can label them assessments, but they're movements nonetheless. And they're going to be focused around those 3 areas that we just spoke of. The first being what's known as the windlass test or the windlass mechanism. And, I travel with feet no matter where I go. So I thought I'd bring a bare foot with me. And now the windlass mechanism is basically the ability to lift the toe off the ground or to push your body up on top of the big toe. And I mean, if you think about it, Bob, what do you sit? About 205 these days? You lean, mean son of a gun?
Yeah, exactly. About 210.
Dang.
Yeah.
All right. I used to be a carny. I would win a Cupid doll from that one. But 210 pounds and you're lifting yourself up into this toe off position, whether you're golfing or running, sprinting, whatever the case may be, Turkish get up. I mean, how is it that this little joint can lift 205 pounds above it? Do you think your elbow can flex and lift a 205-pound kettlebell or dumbbell into a curl? I mean, think about that. How the heck does that happen? Well, we're out in California in Gold Country, not far away from Gold Country actually, and we're by the ocean, and those are 2 environments that use what's known as the windlass. Basically, it's throwing a rope over a pole, and now you've got a mechanical advantage to lift heavier weight, kind of a pulley system. So at the base of this foot are these 2 little bones just below the big toe. They're called your sesamoids, and they act like pulleys. And they're encased in tendons, which are connected to the muscles that allow your foot to flex up. And they give you this mechanical advantage. Now, the interesting thing with the big toe is ideally, in the perfect world, it should be able to dorsiflex 45 degrees. And we get, 45 degrees of the big toe. And then the first metatarsal head should dip down 15 degrees, which gives us a total of 60 degrees of big toe dorsiflexion. What's the big deal about that, Rock? Well, here's the thing. If I am limited, they might call it hallux rigidus or a rigid big toe that doesn't flex upward, then what happens when I land on it? Then I reach an end range of motion and I start lifting off the ground prematurely. What does that matter? Well, in order for me to truly push off, I need my knee to extend and my hip to extend. But if my big toe is rigid and I can't get that full range of motion, then I'm not going to be able to extend through my knee, which means that all that tissue that's lengthening to propel me forward, including my hip flexor and my quads, is not going to be occurring either at the hip or the knee, which means I'm going to be limited on how much I can really drive off with the other leg and land on it, which means I'm going to have a hard time propelling into hip extension and landing into hip flexion. Essentially, we're talking about glutes and their ability, their capacity to really, truly generate a lot of force. So getting that big toe to actually move properly is a really big deal. So, Bob, you mind if we use you as a model and example? Truth be told, I got taken out the other day by somebody else's surfboard, and it like a baseball bat to the outside of my lower leg. So I'm so grateful for you to be doing this, because you'd see me gimping around right now.
Can you see my
All
feet?
right. I see those lovely feet of yours. That is fantastic. Tell you what, move to the camera just a little bit more so people can really see those piggies. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to do what's just we're going to do a windlass test where he just lifts his toes off the ground without lifting his feet or the pads of his feet. Okay. Can you see that Bob's left big toe can raise up higher than his right? But how it's rising up is not straight. It's actually rotating outward. What we're looking for in the windlass test is how well can those toes lift basically straight on up. So the right one's doing a little bit better job than the left, and he's figured out a way to be successful on that left big toe by lifting it up into the outside. So even though it's getting higher, he's doing it in a way that, for me, isn't the most ideal. Now, what we could do is we could try and open up that big toe joint right now with the help of some lovely foot wedges or maybe a rolled up towel. So if you happen to have a couple of foot wedges, what we could do is have you turn sideways, Bobby, if you don't mind, so we can see you. Yeah, that's the way. And we're going to slide one of the wedges just underneath your big toe, but keep the ball of your foot in contact with the floor. And if you don't feel much of a stretch sensation in the soft tissue surrounding it, then maybe take another wedge and slide it underneath also. So now we're creating a pancake effect, increasing the angle. There you go. And what we could do simply is take your opposite leg and step back so that you're in a stride. And the wedge should be coming in directly in front of your big toe rather than from the side. Good. I'm glad you tested me on that. I appreciate that. And now all you're going to do is send your knee forward. Now, if you happen to have an additional wedge that you could slide underneath the back of your heel, that would encourage more mass to travel forward and just start to gently open up that big toe. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of ways in which we can mobilize the big toe, and this is one of them. It's just trying to get the plantar tissue underneath the foot to try to open up as that big toe dorsiflexes and the body comes underneath it. Now, truth be told, this does not necessarily happen in gait mechanics. It's just a simple way of getting that big toe joint to open up a little bit. And it may be very beneficial to a lot of people, but it's not necessarily a way in which we actually use that joint in regards to mechanics. So we'll try this for a minute, and then we're going to go to a different style of mobilizing that big toe. But Bob, let's do this. Let's go ahead and walk around for a second and tell the listening audience what that feels like. If you're in tremendous pain or you're feeling happy.
It feels more grounded. Grounded.
Okay, cool. And as you walk around, get a sense of what it's like what's the knee feeling like on that side, what the hip is feeling like, what the whole body is feeling like.
It actually feels easier to squat down right now.
So that's weird. Okay. Obviously, there's some hallucinogens in your air system there, but whatever. We'll just keep on going. That's good. Okay, cool.
Standing
Nice.
alone.
And then how about we just reassess your windlass mechanism? Kind of kick those wedges off to the side and face me, and then lift those toes up. Oh, okay, that's really cool. I
It's
wasn't
straight.
expecting such a change. How nice is that? Wow. So now the toe
Wow.
is dorsiflexing in a better direction.
That's crazy.
And wow, honestly, I wasn't expecting that. That's kind of icing. That's beautiful. That's
It
you're
feels
a
more
handsome
balanced.
devil.
It
Yeah.
literally
Were you
feels
ever
more
a foot
balanced.
model? You might have missed your calling because right now I think some lotion company is calling you. Okay, tell you what, bud. Let's do a different one. When does the when does the big toe need to dorsiflex at the first metatarsophalangeal joint? Another big name for saying the big toe joint is when the foot drives and pushes off the ground. That's when we should be seeing that dorsiflexion of the big toe. So you know how we had your foot forward. This time, what we're going to do is we're going to have that foot be back behind you. So if yes, and we're going to use the wedge once again. We might use two wedges, to be honest, because I want to make sure that you're not just bailing out onto the left toe when you push off, but I want to keep the ball of your foot by the small toe, the fifth metatarsal head on the ground too. I want the forefoot essentially to stay in contact as you start driving off. It's only at the very, very last second that we shift over to the big toe and push off, but I want to do something before that actually occurs. So what we're going to do is there any way we can go back to that version of you, Bobby, with your foot actually like a close up to the ground?
Yep.
I think that would work better for the viewers. Yeah, there's those handsome piggies right there. Okay.
Yep.
And it was the left big toe. By chance, how about telling people about which hip you feel on average throughout the day is more restricted or you struggle with?
Left hip. My hip
Oh,
replacement, it may have been put in differently than the other one because I kept doesn't feel right. It feels different. And it pops when I get in certain positions. And it's hard to get up out of Turkish get up on that side.
very interesting. So potentially the toe might be a byproduct of hip mechanics, but it could also be the other way around. But if we can kind of address both of them, I think we're going to be better off. So let's do this. We're going to take a wedge, and once again, we're going to put it underneath, coming in from the front. We're going to put it in from 12 o'clock underneath your big toe. And then we're going to take your other wedge and we're going to come in sideways from the outside of your foot, underneath the ball of your foot by your little pinky toes and your fourth toe. So, yeah, right into the ball of your foot by your small toe. And you're going to have your right foot stepping forward. Right foot forward. Good. You can go a little bit more than that if you'd like to. There you go. And now all I want you to do is start to glide forward and allow your left heel to start lifting off the ground. So as you go forward, there we go. Now what we're doing is we're encouraging quicker dorsiflexion of Bobby's big toe on his left foot. So it's going to encourage tissue to change at a different, oh, sequence, shall we say, a different speed. It's going to occur a little bit sooner. And by having that other wedge there, we're going to maintain good forefoot contact. How's that feel, Bob?
Good.
Cool. And if
Great.
you want to go a little bit further with that and see if you can allow your left ankle to gently start turning outward so that you can feel this spiral like effect up through your ankle, lower leg, all the way up into your hip so that your femur is, in this case, rotating to the left or externally, we might say. What does that feel like?
Mm-hmm. Does that look right in the ankle?
That looks fantastic. Okay. Now, okay, so let's do this. Walk around for a second and let's go to your metrics mat, your BAM metrics floor mat, because that'll be really quite nice.
You want me to go back up or leave it on the ground?
You can come on up and tilt it down so we can see that mat.
Right there.
That's brilliant. Now, Bob's got these mats, and you're probably familiar with them. I love them. I've got a couple in my facility. We never have them rolled up. They're always out on the floor because they're a way of giving people feedback and awareness and measurement. So, all we're going to have you do is just see how far you can step and still keep the ball of your foot on the ground. There you go. And not lose contact. So this is one way we could create metrics around the windlass mechanism is how far can we go and how far can you go with that left knee extending? So this is going to be different than a lunge. I want you to keep your left knee straight and you're going to be like a tree falling forward in the forest. There you go. And as you come forward with that knee straight and that hip extended, how far up can you bring that heel while maintaining good contact underneath the ball of your foot by the big toe and little toe? So now we're getting into this slingshot effect. Can he lengthen through all that tissue and still have that? Yeah. And now just switch over to the other leg. I'm just curious to see what the difference is between one leg and the other. So yeah, what do you got?
This one, the right one feels actually tighter than the left right now.
Yeah, we don't have enough time to go to the other foot. I'm sorry. You're just going to have to walk around in circles for the rest of the day. Or maybe after this, you can go back to it. But there you go. All right. So isn't that interesting? The hip that is usually restricted is the one that's more open now. He can achieve better gait function. Therefore, he can probably achieve better running mechanics, better sprinting mechanics, better athletic kind of prowess, and so on. Okay. Beautiful job. Now let's go to your neck of the woods. There's the windlass mechanism right there. We could do an open or closed chain movement. I would say that getting your foot, your wedges underneath the big toe and gliding over it, even though it's not open chain, it's not necessarily the proper way that closed chain mechanics go by. But then what Bobby just did with the heel coming off and pushing off, that's more closed chain. The ideal range of motion, 45 degrees of dorsiflexion from the toe, 15 degrees of plantar flexion from the first metatarsal, gives us 60 degrees of ideal dorsiflexion. Too little and too much is neither what we're looking for. We want that Goldilocks spot. Keep your movement slow, controlled, bring awareness. And the slower you go, I think the better, almost to the point of isometric, where the nervous system can really start to light up. All right, brother, let's get into the hip hinge. Tell us, I'm going to let you run with this. Tell us about this, and then I'll give you my 5 cents every now and then.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The hinge is one of the exercises I use with all of my athletes, even my seniors, getting them to hinge properly from the hips, because this works the whole posterior chain and gets the whole body to start connecting with the hips. I have a lot of golfers I work with, and maintaining good posture, staying in a good stance, and getting that body to move properly. This exercise is really powerful for that. And I have 3 different hand positions: hands overhead, hands behind, and hands in front. And the reason for the exercise, as we do it the way I do it, is I start you just outside your hips. If it's a senior, they're not going to be able to do this. They're going to put their hands right here and start with their hands hinging from here. Legs are straight, feet are slightly turned in, and we're lengthening that whole posterior chain and strengthening it. So as they hinge, they're going to keep their back flat, so it looks like this. Back is flat. And squeeze the glutes as they come up, push the hips forward, feel that whole front side stretch. But for your better athletes, we're going to go overhead. So depending on what their body can handle, can they keep a straight line out from their hips, straight through their hands, and come back up? This is the most advanced one. So for many people, they will not be able to handle this movement. They're going to have to go behind the head and look like this. Back flat, hinge, come back up. So what I do with the athletes is we're going to go a couple inches wider each time we do this. So I'm at 24 inches, hands are up. We do 3 of these, and then we go a little bit wider. And what we're trying to get is that extension of the whole body reaching through the sky, get the fascia to open up as you hinge. And again, talking about the big toe, we're feeling the toes in the ground, controlling the movement as I press and come back up. So the hinge of the hips, push through the toes, keep the body nice and straight, and extend the arms if you're up over your head. The Rock, what would you throw in there?
I love it. I think that it depends upon the person that's executing the movement, that we might want to give them some assistance if they don't have the capacity to move in the way that you just described. So we might have them holding on to something, giving them some blocks in which to support themselves. But ultimately, it's great. If you think about it's it's the change of motion where injuries occur. It's where Dr. Gray with the Gray Institute might call it a transformational zone. Others might call it something else. But basically, if we look at most non-contact injuries, it's when we have a change in direction. So this hip hinging is essential as far as I am concerned with a whole bunch of daily activities and athletic pursuits. And the older we get, the shorter our range of motion becomes. You don't see a lot of octogenarians with huge strides. Over time, their bodies move less and less, and so their restrictions increase more and more. So to encourage the body to open up into these abducted positions that you're putting yourself in, and then to feel what it's like to internally and externally rotate the hips, to anteriorly and posteriorly tilt the pelvis, and to maintain good, solid integrity and dynamic stability while doing this, I love it. And the fact that you can use measurements on the floor, whether it's a yardstick or it's your mat, it just gives people feedback where I'm seeing improvement. And if I go too far and I'm cramping up, well, then I need to back off of that a little bit and get into a place where I'm successful and then try that further back out. What do you
Hey,
say to
Rob,
that?
that's what I was going to say is the difference between mobility and flexibility is flexibility. I go really wide, right? But I can't get up out of that. That means you're not mobile there. It means you're flexible to there, but you're not mobile. So to own that position of how you can bend and hinge from the hips and come back up, this is the key. This really helps how your athletes and your clients will move as they know what they own, the range of motion. Now you can do all kinds of stuff outside of here and come back here and test it and say they have the aha moment of, oh my God, I can do it now. I couldn't do it at 42. Now they're at 44 and they're able to hinge and come back up. And when I do this exercise, we keep moving out. Every couple reps, we move out 2 inches. So we get to a point where eventually you're so wide, that's where I'm going to start bringing up that T-spine and adding the movement from the ground up. So if you have certain people that can't get really wide and they can't get to that position, that's where you're going to use like a block or something like this, and they can work on that T-spine, because that's the next thing we're going to talk about is the T-spine. But this is all a connection from the toe to the hips to the T-spine up here. That's the range of motion. You're getting all of that in one exercise. So toes, hips, and T-spine rotation. So, I mean, I have 87-year-old guy that does this exercise, but he uses 2 blocks like this. He has his feet set, and then he just works on this, what he can do for today. And if I want to progress him, I can drop it down and he can try to get here, but then he has trouble rotating. He can't quite do it. So the progression is super important how you do that.
Yeah, and you may, with the raising arm, may use a landmark on the ceiling or wall that the fingers line up with. So now
Yeah.
you're using a visual driver to see how far an individual goes. And just by using vision is a huge way of improving mobility. I want to also put in this, Bob, is that these 2 movements that we have been kind of demonstrating and sampling are done in a gravity-fed environment while you're on your feet, which means that there needs to be not only mobility, but there needs to be dynamic stability. So even though the label or the title of this is metrics and mobility, we could simply exchange that for metrics and stability, because it is required to have motor control through these movements. If we don't, then we need to make it a little bit more achievable. We need to bring it down a notch so that the individual can be successful with it, because otherwise you're just going to be layering more compensatory movements on top of patterns that are already most likely compensating.
Right on.
All right. Okay, then. Are you ready to move to the next one?
Yep.
Let's just summarize here. The hip hinge positions. You can have your arms crossed, hands behind the head, or for more intensity and a higher degree of loading, extending the arms over. Each arm is 15-pound dumbbells that connect to your shoulders. So you've got somewhere around 20 to 30 pounds reaching out there. That's a lot of load without having to grab onto a medicine ball or dumbbell. Keep the tempo slow and controlled, just like the previous one, and progress to a wider stance as your body becomes more successful with it. So
let me add to that too. When you guys are doing this, as they get better at it, okay, especially with my pro athletes, I will add a weight behind their head here and put a weight. So I'll grab a 5, a 10, a 25, and we will do it like this, nice and slow and controlled, and we will build neck strength, core strength through the toe. You will feel everything that much more. That's for the most advanced. So I add weight to that exercise, and you'll really feel that big toe pushing as you're trying to come up with a heavy weight on the back. So let's just
another metric. Yeah, another metric. And I will say this, that you being just the expert in this field and doing what you do, you've got the coach's eye, and you're always looking to make sure that your client or athlete are maintaining proper execution at every joint, at every range of motion. And when you see that they have a load on, but they're breaking down, then you know that that's too much. You need to back off. So for the listening audience, just because we're able to put weight on there and the person is athletically inclined, you still want to watch them really with scrutinizing eyes to make sure that what you think should be happening truly is. Otherwise, they're going to be really good at hiding their compensation. So,
weight will cause that compensation. You will see it when you put that big weight on their back. It will change their movement.
Careful with that for sure. Okay, so we've done the big toe and we've gotten a little bit into the hip hinging. And of course, we just did primarily sagittal plane with some frontal plane excursion or abduction. That's just one of countless ways in which to mobilize the hip. So this is just an example of how can we measure mobility. Just want to kind of reinforce that because you've got a tremendous amount more. In fact, the next one we're going to go to, yes, we're going to be focusing on the T-spine, and yes, we're going to be on the floor rather than in a gravity-fed environment, upright, vertically loaded. We're going to go down so that we can really get into the T-spine itself. But at the same time, we're looking at the ability for the pelvis to maintain their position. So this is where we've got ourselves the upper spinal floor twist. And Bob, go ahead. Why don't you go from there?
So during this exercise, I want the client to see how they move and what they're able to do. So when I set them up to do the upper spinal floor twist, I'm trying to get them to not compensate, right? So if you have an elderly person that really can't rotate, I want to assess them and I want them to see how they're moving. So I use like a 12-inch block, put their knee on it, and then I let them open up their arm and see how far they can go. And then I can look at how far is it to the ground, right? If they can touch the ground easily, then I'm going to go, let's go here. Now I'm watching, is it their shoulder? Is it down the low back? What here is compensating when they try to do this? And when they change sides, I'm going to look at, does their knee come off the block right here? Is this too low? Or can they actually get their arm to the ground? So when they switch to the other side, is it the same movement? The block makes it easy for them to replicate the movement when I have them practice it. So the T-spine, does it rotate equally on both sides? They need to see that they are capable. If they did it on the one side, can they do it on this side the same way and get that shoulder to the ground without compensating, without pulling from the hip, without rotating away? Most people will just move away from it to get the arm to the ground. Rock, you want to go into more detail on it?
Yeah, so what we're looking for is basically disassociation between the rib cage and the pelvis. How well can one turn before the other one goes along for the ride? So ultimately, what we should have is this opposing relationship between the rib cage and the pelvis when we're walking, running, and so on, when we're swinging a golf club or a baseball bat or anything for that matter. So there's several things I want to kind of touch upon here. One is that you, Bob, and I have both studied through a lot of Pete Egoscue's work with the Egoscue method in Southern California, and separately at different times throughout our career. In fact, one of my first mentors was very much in his clinic for many, many years before branching off and doing his own. And for those not familiar with the Egoscue method, it is essentially doing a lot of structural or postural assessments, understanding where people deviate from the three planes of motion. That gives you insight as to the types of movements or isometric poses or positions that can encourage them to become more congruent in a loaded position with those three planes of motion, in essence, trying to help encourage better structural alignment. So this in particular, the upper spinal floor twist, is reminiscent of that methodology. And so as Bobby's doing this here, of course, we block off the knee. Now, there may be some of you that are very mobile and don't need a block underneath, but for the most part, we'll block it off because I actually like the block in itself because it doesn't compress that superior hip. It gives me a more parallel thigh position. And now, as much as we want that thigh to maintain, or that inside medial portion of the knee to maintain contact, one thing that a lot of people will do with this is they will try and reach back as much as possible with the arm and not be focused on the ribs rotating. There's quite a difference between keeping my ribs still and cranking back. I feel that all in my shoulder compared to focusing on my ribs rotating and using the weight of my arm as a sandbag to try and draw the rib cage closer to get that scapula to the ground. Now, what I might also do is, rather than holding on to the knee with, in this case, Bob's left hand, I'm going to say, Bobby, put your hand on the floor with the palm face down. Out in front of you. Yeah, palm down. And this time, when you rotate that rib cage away from your hips and that block, I want you to push that left hand into the ground. So now we're actively engaging a little bit of rhomboid, mid-trap, posterior delt on that left side to encourage that rib cage to go further without cranking on the arm that's reaching in that direction. The other thing that I might encourage is for you to take your eyes and your head and go along with the rib cage so that you're turning your head and allowing the freedom of the cervical spine and your vision to actually create that motion too. Because we don't talk about vision a lot, but it would be good to take a pause here to know that wherever you drive your eyes, it triggers a muscular response to go in that direction. For instance, taking your eyes up will trigger the extensor chain. Taking your eyes down will trigger the flexor chain. Taking your eyes to the right will encourage right spiral or rotational motion. And taking your eyes left is left rotation. So we don't think about where to take our eyes all that often, but it's a really great coaching tool to elicit more motion and range of motion through it, rather than keeping your head staring at the ceiling with your head not moving and so on. But I really want to see that there is a range that you can achieve. And what I might do, instead of a foot wedge, I might put a larger foam wedge or a balance cushion Airex pad down underneath Bob's right shoulder if it can't get to the ground. I want to give him contact so that he has something to feel, so that the nervous system can get something there to engage against, because that's going to give me more. If I have nothing to push against, then how can I actually get into that motion the way that I want to? Can you feel the difference there, Bob?
Yeah, you really can relax into it. Yeah.
Then that relaxation can really create more range of motion. So there you go. Anything else to put in there?
No, that's good. I like that.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Now, there are a whole bunch of T-spine mobility drills, whether you're side lying, whether you're in a quadruped position, a seated position. One of my favorites that feels like voodoo, and I swear it's just motor neurology and biomechanics, is either hands behind the head or across the shoulders and in a tall seated position, rotating to the end range of motion, performing a side bend in that direction, coming up and seeing if that creates better rotation, better range of motion. You do that a few times, and man, it just unlocks that T-spine like there's no tomorrow.
I use that I use that all the time with my golf pros, all the time. Every day as part of their
Fantastic.
warm-up, cool down, they use it often. And it's a great exercise. You can do it anywhere. You can have your clients that sit at desks all day long, mix this in
Yeah.
between a call. It's fantastic for your weekend warriors who are going to go out and play to get that T-spine to move. They can do it right at their desk. And you just do three. Just rotate, dip, and do it 3 times. It'll really open up their T-spine.
Yeah, whether you put the golf club back around their shoulders and hold on and do it that way, or just behind, across the chest, however you want to do it. The point is that, well, we could do that and use metrics too, is looking for a point on the wall in which your vision lines up to, or the club or your elbow. And then can you create more? It's amazing when you incorporate vision into mobility drills, the feedback, that visual feedback that you get allows your body to unlock like you wouldn't believe. So kind of bringing this all around and kind of putting it in a little package here, the things that we want to reinforce are just find a starting point, find a baseline of motion, and then give them a movement that challenges them. It can't be too easy because you're not going to have any desire to change. There's not going to be any imposed demand that's significant enough to actually create change, whether it's range of motion or dynamic stability. It can't be too hard, or else there's going to be compensation. So that's where you want to watch the body and the joints and the bony structures and how the skeleton moves. Don't worry about the muscles. Watch the skeleton, because if you watch the bones, then the tissue is going to behave based on where the bones move. And if you know where you want those bones to move, then that's going to be your guiding light there. It's got to be a little challenging. Find a place where they have a breakdown, and then just kind of back off of that and start to work in that zone just before that breakdown occurs. And then reassess. What we do needs to be, it needs to be successful. It needs to be almost like a happy movement in a way, is how I look at it. If the body is screaming or burning, it's going to fight you. So you got to make it fun and happy. And if the person gives you feedback like, oh my gosh, that feels so good, you know you're on the right track. If they're sweating profusely and they're spitting and they're breathing heavy and they're just like, oh my gosh, is this really good for me? I would probably question that myself. And it needs to be measurable. So, Bob, you want to add in more for this
Yeah,
summary?
like Bill Parisi talked about it. Create a challenge for the clients and the athletes. The more you create a challenge, the better they're going to be perform, because their bodies are going to adapt to what you're trying to give them. The challenge of using all the different tools like a tidal tank and balancing, that creates a challenge. These are some of the things we're going to go over when we do the webinar. There's a lot of things of different movements, but that's a big one for your clients. Create a challenge, but don't make it too challenging. Progress it back and get them to move better and assess their movement so they can actually see that they're improving week to week. If they don't see that, I mean, I've had clients for 15 years, 30 years, they see progression over time and they stick with it. If they see that measurable result, they have something to chase. It's the carrot to chase. So
Beautiful. Well said. Well said. Yeah, the client buy-in is essential. And by showing them how they progress and getting them to understand they'll just keep coming back. All right. So contact information for Bob before we get into the Q&A, hoping that there's a few people out there with some good questions out there that we can field. I love talking shop, no matter what. Whether getting on the phone with Bob and we could have an hour go by without us even knowing it. But if there's anybody out there that'd like to email us or check out our website, also Chris and Aaron, can't thank them enough for doing this. I'm going to be in Providence myself, not as a presenter. Honestly, I'm kind of going back in time. I'm just going to be an attendee. I just want to go and sit in the audience and network and be there for the social night. And I just love it. I've been going since, I don't know, 2005 or so, 2006, 20 years of Perform Better Summits. Haven't missed many. And so I'll be there in Providence. I hope to see everybody there. And then Bobby was mentioning a webinar. So giving you a little bit of sampling about it, but we're going to do a deeper dive into really all areas of the body and how do we get some really responsive bodies that are pliable and yet resilient. And it's through a lot of mobility. Yes, there's strength training, of course, but if you have restriction, then your nervous system is going to restrict how much force you can produce. So if you're looking to be stronger or have your athletes and clients, patients be more not only resilient, but a higher ability to produce force and athletic performance, then yeah, join us. It begins in September, and it's going to be a weekly webinar for 4 weeks. And the QR code right there to sign up if you like.
And Rock, I was going to say the one thing that hit me when I turned 50, I had no idea about mobility, why, how much
You
it was.
turned 50 already? Oh,
Yeah,
man, you don't look a day over 29, brother.
this is 7 years ago. I'm 57 now. So what the reason I want to tell you guys this story is I got into mobility because of pain, injuries, 2 hip replacements. I have multiple injuries. But when my son turned 12, we're at the baseball facility. They said, let's have a bench press contest with the bar. And I said, okay, go ahead and do it. So the kids did 18. Then the high school kids jumped in. They did 38. Then the college kids jumped in. They did 78. And then said, Bob, what can you do? And I'm like, oh my God, I haven't done that in 25 years. When I was 25, I took the bar and I did it 104 times. And I remember it was burning like crazy right here on that 104th rep. It was like, oh. So I'm like, okay, I can try to get 79, 78. I can try to beat 79, but I'm not as strong. I used to bench 315. Now I bench like 245. So I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. So I get on there, I get going. 75, 100, 150, 200. What? How the hell did I just do 200 when I'm 50 years old? But when I was 25, I struggled to do that. That's mobility. That's posture. That's being in the right position. It was effortless power. So what I say to you guys is mobility is the key, and learn some of these exercises, learn how to use these tools right here with your clients, and your athletes will move amazing. Your clients will move amazing, and you'll have less pain. So performance will go up.
Right on. Yeah, there is something for anybody that's followed Dr. Eric Cobb and Z Health Education Systems. He calls it the arthrokinetic reflex, which basically is the nervous system down regulating force production when there's restriction in joints. And by mobilizing the joint and freeing it up, force production in the muscle is allowed to be greater and greater. And it's a protection mechanism that we don't injure ourselves when we're restricted. Okay, Bob, you ready to field some questions here?
Sure.
First one's for you. For the hinge, is it okay to move the torso down while the hips are no longer reaching back? Would it be more ideal to move hips and shoulders at the same time?
Hips and shoulders. So what do they mean by that?
So as your hips are gliding back behind the heels, as you're hinging, we
Uh,
should see the shoulders descending simultaneously. What they're saying is it okay to continue to move the torso below even though the hips stop?
oh,
So
you mean
what I
rounding?
Yeah, so it would be a rounding of the spine. It depends on what you're looking for. If I've got somebody who is really extended through the spine that doesn't flex their spine very well,
Oh,
I might encourage that. I might want to see, hey, can we get that spine to flex if it's restricted? But ultimately, if your goal is to look at hip hinging, then we don't really want any extra movement through the spine. Would you agree?
yes, I want it flat for the reason that I'm trying to get them to maintain that posture. But like Rocky just said, if they have an excessive, arch in their back and they have some pain there, then we may change that. And I may not even use that exercise. So I use that exercise specifically for lengthening the full kinetic chain to the ankle and toe, big toe.
Yeah. I mean, the dropping the shoulders down after the hips have reached their end range, we'll just call that a forward bend. And for the last 5 to 10,000 years, yogis have been doing it for a long time. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think
Yeah.
it's got purpose. It's just not what we're trying to achieve in regards to hip and pelvic function at that time. Okay. So then, where does the block go, under the shoulder or the hip? And I believe this was when it comes to the upper spinal floor twist. So the block should go
Under the knee.
underneath the inside of your knee.
Right.
And you can essentially put a little pressure feel the weight of your leg. That might be what I would say to people. I want you to feel the heaviness of that leg, gently kind of pushing into the squishiness of that block.
And I
And
like
if you notice that if you feel like the heaviness lifts off the block, it tells you that you're actually rotating your pelvis. And we really want the pelvis to stay fairly stationary as the rib cage rotates.
that.
Yeah. Now, if
Yeah.
somebody weren't able to get all the way to the ground, I might give them an object behind the shoulder, like another block, in which to try to have as a means of getting over there, like a goal. I want you to get over there and see if you can rest on that block. And
Definitely the foam pad, the foam
there you go. Exactly that RX pad of yours.
as they're going that way. Here. And they can't quite reach to here. You're gonna put this here so they can get to that and feel that pressure right there dropping.
That's it. Yeah, there's a couple of questions about the slides. So if you want, I'm happy to email you a PDF of the slideshow. There's about 10 slides that we have on there. Happy to email you any of those. Just drop us a note, rocky@rockysnyder.com, and I'll send a PDF with you on the way. And let's see what else. The shoulder blades stay on the ground. Okay, so there's the one question do the shoulder blades stay on the ground with the torso twist? What do you say to that, Bob? It should be dynamic, right? We're not going to try and just hold you in a static isometric kind of pose, right? We want to feel what it's like to teach the body how to enter and exit, how to turn in one direction, but equally turn the opposite direction, no matter which way your hips are facing. So I would say that it's great to try and get the body to maintain a gentle contact momentarily, and then feel what it's like to control the way out of it. Cool with that?
Yeah. Yeah, in and out. And I keep going in and out and breathing. And the breath is key to getting that to release and feeling the range of motion slowly. And the block just helps you keep the knee there so they can work on that feeling over and over. It really helps.
Tell you what, there are a couple of people that are asking about the upper spinal floor twist, and now that the sharing of the screen of the slideshow is gone, they can see you much better and bigger. Would you mind just turning the camera and a nice angle there where, yeah, that's it. So stacking the hips on top of each other. Now, here's one thing, Bob, we didn't mention is that your bottom leg, sometimes I might encourage you to reach back around almost like as if you were running, like taking your left knee and sliding it back. Yeah, and actually flexing into that knee so the heel is pulled toward. Yes. Yeah. Now there's one variation, but that opens up the hip flexor quadricep as he rotates over, kind of giving you that PNF path, that sling, that lengthening effect from the right shoulder to the left hip, left knee, that anterior component. There. Oh, that's very sexy. Excellent. Love that. That's good. Great. And so, oh, this is good. This is great. So if you were to flip your left palm down and you were to push into the ground as you rotate over, we get a little bit more. That's it. Okay, so we can see this side. Can we assess the other side really quick? I want to see what the difference is between left and right in this position. This is beautiful. I'm glad somebody asked this question. All right, good. Same position, good. Ask me about lumbar spine in just a second because I got something else to add. All right. It looks as if you've got a greater degree of rotation going to your left with your torso. Would you agree?
Yes, because I'm a left-handed golfer. I go back that
Oh,
way.
you son of a gun. Okay. So if we were to switch you over to the other side and put the RX pad underneath your right side, your right shoulder, give you something to contact. We'll just see what this is like. And while he's doing this, lumbar. Here's the thing. Remember earlier in the hour, we talked about the fact that the lumbar can only maybe rotate 5 or 6 degrees left to right. It doesn't make up a lot of rotation. And so some of your clients, patients, and athletes may be extended too much into that lumbar, a little bit of excessive lordosis. and it grinds when because of that, they flex more into the thoracic, which doesn't allow for great rotation. So unfortunately, what they do is they compensate with trying to grind out the lumbars. And the next thing you know, they go to their doctor and they say, oh, your discs are really worn down. Stenosis, blah, 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 spondy, all that. Here's what you could do is just, I would encourage the knee that is resting on the block to be slid closer up toward the chest so that the knee is either in front of the belly button or even above the belly button level. That itself will reduce extension through the lumbars, in essence, flexing the lumbars into a more neutral position, which may help create more rotation. Okay, now that you've been doing that, Bob, and we only got a couple of minutes here, how would you say that is? Now you're able to contact it, you're able to get some action in there. How about taking the pad away and reassessing and what that rotation's like without the pad now? Oh, baby. And people think wedges don't do anything. Look at
Much
that.
better.
Just by giving him contact, created better range of motion. Dude, you're amazing. You're the best model. And you're handsome as all get out. I don't know how you do it.
It literally made a big difference, Rock. And then my knee being up, that little bit up by the belly button actually helped with the rotation. Where it was down, it was a little locked up down there. So by bringing that up a little bit, it released it as we opened it. So that was a great call right there.
Fantastic. Okay, we got a few more coming in now. Yeah, see, I told them there's only a couple minutes left and they're typing like fiends. Let's see. Do you have any of the other toes bigger, longer than your big toe affect mobility? Oh, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about a Morton's toe or a Morton's foot, where the second toe next to the big toe is longer. I've got those. I understand it's a sign of intelligence, but it doesn't seem to. Some research may say that it affects foot mechanics and pushing off. Myself, I have yet to find that the case in any of the people I work with, including yours truly. I don't see that affecting my ability to move through. So, but everyone's different. You're going to have to assess them and reassess and find out. But I don't see that being a huge issue. Where does the breathing pattern introduced get optimal, necessary relaxed performance is of major importance? Yeah, I would say breathing is a very important thing. It's the first thing we do out of the womb. It's the first muscular contraction we have. It's what stimulates all those deeper core muscles, getting that diaphragm to move back and forth. I typically, anything where I'm expanding, I'm going to inhale. Anytime I'm coming back around, I'll probably exhale. And if I get that, then I might trick my nervous system and do the opposing action, where as I expand, I might exhale. And as I come in, I might inhale. I don't know there's so much research still yet to be published with breathing that I'm not going to say that I'm an expert in any way whatsoever. I think that controlled, nice, deep breaths with long exhalations typically have shown me to be the most positive response.
Yeah, usually in
But
through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose, fill the
right?
diaphragm, fill the belly, exhale out through the mouth and relax. And try it different ways. You'll see different things. I tried different ways trying to see this movement. Does it get better when I do it this way, or does it get better when I do it that way? So I'll switch the breathing. Try different.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, last question, and it's a great one. It brings us back to the hip hinge. With hip hinge restriction, would you recommend a regression and perform it from a seated position with a wide foot position? Uh, and yes, if you want to email me at rocky@rockysnyder.com, I will send you a PDF for the slideshow. But yeah, Bob, what'd you say to that? We didn't put it in the slides, but I know you go there.
Yeah.
A hip hinge is restricted. You either put them supine with the legs against the wall so that they're unloaded. And if they can perform that, then you flip them around so they're seated with their back against the wall. So now they're vertically loaded. Can they perform that? And then if they can do that, then progress them on to more loaded positions. So it's basically going from simple to more complex. We just gave the standing hip hinge as one of the complex movements. But like you say, you can regress, right?
Right. There's passive and there's active. The hinge is active. The static wall is passive. Also, sitting on a chair and hinging, that's a good exercise for your clients when they're at their desk all day long. Better than not doing so for sure. That's a good exercise. And by spreading the legs on the chair, you're getting those adductors the same way. You're going to feel that. It's like a good morning, as people will call it, a good morning. So that's a great exercise and a great progression to do. But you can get seniors to do the hinge standing and progress just a little bit at a time. So they're literally just moving just a little bit and then back up, just a little bit and then back up. That little bit of hinging will add up each week. So a month from now, they'll hinge, they'll get all the way over. I have an 87-year-old guy that couldn't stand on his 2 feet. He was struggling very, very big time. And now he's like one of my favorite guys. I post him all the time on Instagram, going up and down stairs and doing things. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, those are some great questions. And if you've got more and you're heading to Providence, August 20, 21, 22, flag me down. I'd love to sit down and chat more, and we can geek out on biomechanics and mobility and a whole bunch more. And then September 2nd, we kick off a 4-week webinar series, Bobby and myself. We'll send you information. Seeing you signed up for this, we'll barrage you with one email, maybe two, but not much more than that. I can't thank Aaron and Chris enough and the Perform Better family. I drank the Kool-Aid a long time ago, and I still always leave thirsty for more. So thanks for attending this webinar. I hope you got something out of it. Bobby, man,
Yes.
thanks for
Thank you
allowing me to
guys.
be your wingman.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Perform Better. And thanks guys for coming.
Bye, guys. Thank you.